If you think moving abroad can solve all your issues, maybe you should think about it again. Sabina Saidi, a mother of 3 and small business owner, moved to Saudi Arabia a year ago to work as a maid. She wanted to give her family a better life, but during her time in Saudi Arabia, she learned being a maid is not always about cleaning the house and making food. Sometimes it can be about sleeping with dogs.
I told him, the dogs have started bothering me. One came and started licking my buttocks and legs and it scared me. The man laughed a little and then replied, these dogs also have feelings like humans and have desires too. So it was asking you to sleep with her and have sexual intercourse.
If you believe you have seen a much uglier side of the world and what is happening out there, then you should rethink.
One day they called us, sat us down as a family and said that no one should talk to the maid nicely. Everyone in the house should speak to me harshly, with pressure, and treat me with contempt. They wanted to break me. They brought me and beat me brutally, slapped me. I don't know if the law allowed them to disrespect and degrade a person like that. But it was happening to me. I was in pain surrounded by strangers, where no one liked me. This man beat me, called bandits to try to kill me, and then they attacked me.
In this video, we will find Sabina's story, who moved to Saudi for work, where her boss told her job was to sleep with dogs. Shocking, right? But this is not only what she went through in Saudi. What exactly happened with Sabina? Why she was moved from one job to another? How did she save herself from the inhuman act that her boss demanded? This is going to be an emotional journey. Whatever you are going to learn through this video is actually happening to people outside. It is going to be a painful video, but let's embrace ourselves to listen to Sabina's story.
When I was sent to a household for work, everything was new. Honestly, I only enjoyed the job for about 2 or 3 weeks. The problem started when I realized that the woman I worked for was living in the house with her husband and many older sons. There were many temptations. Sometimes I would walk in and find them lying down and the husband would start touching me. I was shocked by his action, but I couldn't do anything about it. Their law stated that if you are caught with someone else's husband, they might kill you or send you back home in disgrace. I stubbornly ignored and sometimes denied his advances, but I could never guess what was going to do next. It was like I was being tested on every possible ground. If you refuse to do what the boss wants, you should prepare for what is to come.
Since you faced such challenges soon after starting the work, how did you manage to stay intact in such a place?
The men in that house were trying everything to frustrate me to the core. I used to wake up in the morning and greet my boss and he would remain silent, as if I was not even there. If I did something good, he would either not address it or address the act with disgust so that the good I did could lose its essence. He tried to frustrate me, but I was clear about what I wanted and understood how to behave so as not to be fired.
Living in such horror all the time and facing such hatred on a regular basis can be mentally exhausting, especially when you have no one to call yours around. Did this man ever stop?
The man kept pestering me and I kept refusing him, and this continued for a long time. This continuous harassment was bothering me, but fortunately, one day he finally left me alone. He used to come to my room and touch me, which was very disturbing. But when he didn't show up for a few days, I thought the tough times were over. Some days after, the father gave up on me. His 32-year-old son started making advances towards me.
When someone in Saudi hires a maid from overseas, they seize their passport, and most of the household do not allow the maids to even step out of the house. In such conditions, where you are almost trapped around the predators, it was the father before and now his son. How did you manage to stay sane?
This son and I talked a lot, and he would ask me about home. Our friendship grew.
Oh, so things got easier after that?
One day, after praying when I got to bed, I felt someone put their arm around me, and I was very shocked. Who was there? I looked and saw it was the boss's son, the only man who was nice to me in that house. I woke him up and asked him, "What's wrong with you? Why are you here in my room at this hour?" I told him to leave. I even told him that if he wouldn't leave, then I would have to scream for help. He told me he made a mistake and asked for forgiveness, saying it wouldn't happen again. I tried to make him understand his mistake. I was guiding him as I would have guided my younger brother. We agreed that it wouldn't happen again, but people didn't value their word out there. So the friend I made there turned into a predator.
Do you think all of this end with sexual assault and predation? No, something inhuman happened after the family came to know that Sabina and their son built a relationship over time.
We started to develop a relationship. We began living together as people who loved each other and wanted to be together. The family eventually discovered I was in a relationship with their son. One day they called us, sat us down as family, and said that no one should talk to the maid nicely, and told everyone in the house should speak to me harshly with pressure and treat me with contempt. They wanted to break me. They brought me and beat me brutally, slapped me. I don't know if the law allows them to disrespect and degrade a person like that. These men beat me, called bandits to try to kill me, and then they attacked me. The violence reached a point where I had to find a way to defend myself, or they would have killed me. I was afraid and angry at the same time. I wanted justice for myself. I was deeply saddened.
What a tragedy. Being attacked like that without even knowing why these people hate you to this extent can break anyone. She could see these people can even kill her.
I had left my family in Tanzania, and I didn't want to bring misfortune upon them by dying in a foreign country. When I told the son to leave my room the following night, he slapped me unexpectedly, and I was shocked. I couldn't cry. I screamed loudly and then bowed my head and cried, praying to my God, the only one I had left.
Doing this takes courage, especially in a surrounding where, even if you do everything by the book, they can harm you.
With each passing day, the family's hate against me reached a point where he asked to be transferred to another job, thinking that maybe my problem would decline by doing so.
Sounds like a gutsy thing to do, but it was a gamble because you never know what awaits you. But I guess this was the only way to escape your surrounding death.
The people I had left behind were relatives of the new place's owners. The household I worked for and its people had arrived at my new workplace before me and had already prepared my downfall before I got there. They bad-mouthed me to the extent that no one in my new workplace wanted to see me around. I went there not knowing where I was going, only wanting to leave the previous house. I did the cleaning and my usual work, and the next day, the boss called me and said, "Sabina, come here. I need to talk to you." I went and sat down, and she told me, "We need to move you from here because of what we heard you did at your previous job."
Oh, no, this would have broken her heart. Her previous owners who wanted to kill her here ruined her chance to have better and calm time in Saudi.
I was disheartened, but I couldn't do anything about the situation. I just asked them to please shift to a better place. I was not ready to experience anything again that I experienced in my previous workplace. She reassured me that she would definitely help me. She told me to do my cleaning work well, wash my clothes, and prepare to leave the next morning.
Seems like a nice lady, but the good thing is Sabina was not transferred back to her previous owner's house.
When I arrived at the new house, I found it was a very nice place. My bedroom was also very nice, and I moved in without any problems. When I got there, they gave me a week to rest before starting work because there was another male worker who was leaving and another female worker. So I became the third worker. I spent the whole week eating and doing nothing, not knowing what my job would be. Then I heard that the female worker had been transferred to another job and the male worker was leaving the next day.
After facing extreme situation in her last place of work, Sabina would have felt relaxed after a good break. Finally, someone was treating her like human. Were these people really treating her like human?
The man who was the boss called me into his room and I went since my lady boss wasn't there. When I arrived, he asked me, "Do you know the job you came here to do?" I said no. He asked again in shock, "You don't know your job?" I replied that the job I usually do is household work, cleaning, washing clothes, cooking, and other similar tasks.
Isn't it clear that maid is supposed to do cleaning, and if someone will ask the employee if they know about their job role, clearly it will make them doubt if they are supposed to do something more than their natural chores.
He started showing me his breeding business, fish, ducks, pigeons, and finally he took me to the dog house, which was designed like a house for humans. We entered and I saw 4 dogs. He then told me, "So, I brought you here to sleep with these dogs." When he told me that my job was to sleep with the dogs, my mind didn't immediately grasp what he meant by that. For a second, I thought it was some kind of joke. I asked him, "Sleep with them in what way?" He replied, "You will feed them, clean them, and take care of them." Without much thought, I quickly agreed because I thought the job was very easy. It was simply taking care of dogs. That's what I thought.
Sleep with dogs. Isn't it spooky phrase to hear?
The first week I found the job very easy and the dogs were not troublesome. They were very clean and behaved like humans. However, I didn't sleep in the dog house as he had intended, but rather on the porch of the dog house. I would wake up, clean them, and then go to the main house because the animals were kept in the small house.
Seems like an easy task and comfortable job. I guess that would have been breezy time.
After a few days, something strange happened. The dogs started seeking to sleep with me or engage in sexual activities.
What? Dogs showing sexual desires for a human?
While preparing tea, I approached the man and said, "Papa, I have a serious problem I want to talk to you about." He asked, "What is the problem?" I told him, "The dogs have started bothering me. One came and started licking my buttocks and legs and it scared me." The man laughed a little and then replied, "These dogs also have feelings like human and have desires too. So, it was asking you to sleep with it and have sexual intercourse." I was shocked and asked, "Can a person have sex with a dog?" I didn't even know doing such an act was even possible. He reminded me, "Do you remember when I told you your job was to sleep with the dogs?" I said yes, and he clarified, I wasn't just talking about sleeping with them, but also having sex. I was terrified. He said all this with a straight face, as if it was natural. I asked, "How can a person sleep with a dog? Besides, I saw they are all mares. Does that mean I will have sex with all 4 of them?" He replied, "Yes, you will start with the one that touched you, and then the others will follow."
Oh God, how this man cannot ask for Sabina's consent for such a natural job. How come no one told this woman what she was registering herself for? No one can imagine the fear this woman would have gone through in the situation.
I was speechless and bowed my head, wondering where I could report him. I thought about going to the neighbors to report him. I sat for about an hour thinking about the answer to give him.
I couldn't even imagine what sort of thought would have run through her brain at that time. She was sitting in front of the man who wanted her to sleep with dogs and found nothing wrong in demanding this.
I needed time to think about my escape from here. Till then, I had to stay in their good books, so I asked him, "When should I do these things with the dogs? Anytime?" He said, "Yes, anytime." After a while, I told him, "Please give me 2 days to think about it. This is new for me. I want to get comfortable about the situation first." He agreed.
Very smart way to borrow some time.
The days I asked to get comfortable with the situation had passed. I approached him and said, "I can't decide to sleep with the dogs. I can't do it." I told him, "I'm not feeling well. I'm on my period. Give me another 2 weeks to recover." He told me, "No problem. Go and get well fast." I was indeed on my period, but asking for 2 weeks wasn't because it would take that long, but because I needed time to figure out how to escape.
Indeed, the smart way to avoid the situation, but what next?
In this while, I had familiarized myself with the neighborhood. One day, my boss called me and said, "I am leaving, but don't open the door for anyone except us when we return." I agree. That day, after he left, I packed my belongings, not knowing he had left people to guard me. I was about to leave when 2 guards caught me, took me back inside and locked me in a room with bad smell and no air. Breathing was difficult in that room.
Oh, when a maid is caught escaping in Saudi, the owners can do really inhuman things to them and even kill them sometimes.
The man returned at 8 in the evening. He came and found me in the locked room, and when he opened it, he beat me brutally, causing wounds and making me bleed. After beating me badly, he told me, "This is your first and last warning. Don't try to repeat this mistake." I begged for forgiveness to save my life. He forgave me and let me out. He had some humanity. He didn't take me to the dog room, but to the room I had been sleeping in since I arrived. I stayed there for a week.
Snatching a human's freedom is the worst humiliation a human can face.
In my heart, I decided I would not stay there, but I promised him I wouldn't think of escaping again and would do everything he asked, because that was the smart thing to do in that situation.
Wow, after facing all the challenges, a person maintaining such willpower, immense respect.
When I healed, I told him I was ready to work with the dogs as he had asked.
She was not really up for the job. It was just a way for her to gain their trust back.
One night I talked with his wife around 5 in the evening. Post that, I packed all my belongings, but cameras were monitoring my action while going inside and outside the house. However, I luckily packed my luggage and transported them out of the house.
Asubuhi kumekucha, kaambia baba, vitu vya kupika vimeisha.
The next morning, I told him, Papa, we are out of cooking supplies. He asked if I knew where to buy them. I said, yes, I know. He gave me money and I went to where I had hidden my bags. I went to the authority and told them everything that had happened, including the house I lived in and his name. He couldn't believe I could do that.
Her courage and her presence of mind was remarkable in this tense situation, and that courage she exercised after all the humiliation and inhuman behavior she experienced on that land could not even break her.
The authority helped me buy a ticket to return home, which I am grateful for. They gave me 2 million Tanzanian shillings, my passport, and I flew back home to Tanzania. My family welcomed me warmly, not knowing what I had been through. They saw me alive, and my children were happy to see me.
I guess her kids and people who were waiting for her behind kept her strong through all this while.
My journey in Saudi Arabia began with the woman who helped people get jobs and visas. She advised on documents and tests and helped with the process for 70,000 shillings. She helped fill in all the necessary detail, but she forgot to tell me the reality of life on the other side.